Sinha, and I represent, as Mr. Sethi has already put it across, a large private sector insurance company, IFFCO TOKIO. For me, crop insurance, I have been an insurance fellow for more than 36 years. But I used to work with the government companies till about 2 years ago, and a year and a half actually. So crop insurance is something that I have begun dealing with in the last year and a half, because my earlier assignments did not entail crop insurance. Also, in this country, crop insurance has really come into prominence since April of 2016, the Kharif season. And largely because of the introduction of this scheme by the Prime Minister of the country, which is the Pradhan Mantri Fasal Bima Yojana. We have had crop insurance in India since 1985, and there were various forms of crop insurances, but not of the magnitude that it has reached today. So the year 2016 was actually a game changer for the insurance industry, for the general insurance industry. If I remember correctly, we wrote some 18,000 crores of premium in the very first year. And it became like a close competitor to health insurance, which is the second largest portfolio. The first one, like in most countries, is the automobile sector, the motor insurance. So this, in the year gone by, the percentage of the crop insurance reached almost 17% of the total business underwritten in India. So the Indian general insurance industry wrote almost 155,000 crores of premium as the top line. And the crop insurance that was written was over 25,000 crores. So as we know, largely it's divided into Kharif and Rabi. So the Kharif season is over. Rabi sets in October. So we are in the middle of the Rabi season, but the main insurance which is taken is for the Kharif portion. These days, being an insurance is not a very easy job. I've been there for so many years, but with the coming in of more companies, the competition has really, what should I say? It has become difficult times to the insurers, because premium rates are going down, claims are being settled, because if you don't settle claims, you will not stay in the business. So the margins are decreasing. And there are very few companies which are actually generating an underwriting profit. In fact, till 2 years ago, there used to be just one company. Last year, another 3 companies just about, reached that 100 level. So it is because of the concept of premium payment, which is done up front here, that there is that element of an investment income. And it is that income which offsets the underwriting losses and then kind of gives some breathing margin to the insurance companies. Crop insurance again is something which nobody has control over. If the gods are kind, if the weather gods are kind, you will end up having a fine year. Like in the year 2016, the weather gods were very kind here in India. And the claims were much lesser than what they were last year. So some of the insurance companies made some money. Today what has also happened is, you could as an insurer make some money, let's say in one district, but then in the adjoining district you could be having great losses. So eventually what happens is, it would depend on the total mix of the good area, the bad area, and how the company has done. As I was saying, unfortunately, being insurers, a lot of times we are at the receiving end. I know I have some friends from the media here, and my request to them would be that please look at the scenario in totality and not just pick up certain aspects. I know these days with everything being on the social media, I have also been seeing a WhatsApp clip which has been coming in, thankfully not my company, about another company where apparently they made a lot of money in one district. Now, that is what catches the attention of people who then talk about it, that the insurance companies are out to make money. But what has been left out is the other clusters where there were huge losses. So these are aspects which is what I would request friends from the media to look at. Now to come to, what are the challenges? So I'm not an expert, as I mentioned right in the beginning. I came in here, but I realized that what is being done is very scientific. And we have Dr. Sasenko who would be taking us through the day and maybe tomorrow and telling us about how it is. In fact, we saw what is happening in other developed economies like the US or Spain, Canada. But the Indian farmer is very, very different from farmers in these developed economies. For a lot of us who have visited rural areas, who have looked at farming, the Indian farmers are very, very poor, and they need all the help that can be given to them by whatever means. I think keeping this in mind, the government came out with this scheme. And as a part of IFFCO Tokyo, Mr. Sethi briefly mentioned. So IFFCO is an acronym for Indian Farmers Fertilizer Cooperative. And IFFCO is the main promoter of IFFCO Tokyo with a stake of 51%. And the cooperative societies, IFFCO has about 40,000 cooperative societies. Today we have 855 offices in the country. Our thrust area is to be in the tier 2, 3 and 4 cities because that is where the farming takes place. Our other partner, Tokyo Marine and Nishido Fire from Japan, is the 10th largest general insurance company in the world. So they, last year the Indian government increased the FDI share from 26 to 49. And a year ago, Tokyo Marine decided to up their stake, so they have a 49% stake. Though crop insurance is not so prevalent in Japan, but they like the concept, they like reaching out to the rural people. And I suppose when this tie-up took place in the year 2000, this was the main reason why these two companies came together. Because I was not a part of this company when it happened, but a lot of people speculated how come a company of cooperatives of farmers is tying up with a tech-savvy top Japanese company. So the coming together was viewed as if something strange was happening. But I can tell you the amalgamation and the merger has been very, very good, because we do get support in terms of the technology and the best market practices which are prevalent in Japan, and they operate out of 38 countries. So they have a very good idea in terms of what is happening. And we as IFFCO, we have our reach into the hinterland, into the farmers. We have some products which cater exclusively to the farmers. So now we would want to reach out, and besides crop insurance, which is a government scheme, we have been selling small policies. As Mr. Sethi mentioned in his initial speech, we do have small package policies for the farmers as well. And as IFFCO, we definitely want to be, whenever there is any need for a farmer or the family. And obviously, when the scheme was launched 2 years ago, we were quite into it. As I mentioned, the first year was good. Last year was very bad for us because one of the states, Chhattisgarh, I could talk about it because I thought we did a very great job. But unfortunately, that was not highlighted in the media. What was highlighted was that we took some time to settle the claims. And that also happened because documents had not been submitted to us. But to give you numbers, we earned a premium of 220 crores in the state of Chhattisgarh, and we paid out 1,080 crores of claims. And we had paid these claims out of the Kharif season itself by November or so. And we're almost done with it, maybe another 20 crores if the documents come in to us. But it's been like a disaster. I can see how Dr. Susenko is looking at the numbers. So it was a very bad year. But despite that, that is what the insurance business is all about. So this year we've already accounted for about 1,000 crores of premium in the state of Maharashtra, and we are there in the state of Rajasthan. And I think we are going to be having another 800 to 900 crores of premium before the end of the year. So we're going to have a large stake, but unfortunately the way things are panning out at the moment, there are a couple of districts where I know there are losses in Maharashtra as well as in Rajasthan. But we're putting in our best efforts. We're trying to ensure that now the crop cutting exercises which have begun, that the results are brought out accurately, and as IFFCO we will never shy away from making good the losses of the farmers. And whether we make money or not, we are totally committed to this. My promoters are very clear that losses wherever have to be settled expeditiously, and to ensure that the plight of our brethren is much improved. I'm sorry I didn't have a presentation, I was traveling, but I had asked my people to give me some points in terms of challenges, etc. So I'll just go through those. And let's look at the challenges. So the challenges, one is lack of adequate database. Now, when I came in a year and a half ago, I asked my department, my people, okay, how do we go about it? So I realized that they have data in terms of claims which have been taking place, let's say in the last 5 years. And what was the reason? Because when there is a dip in the yield, inevitably it is the weather. And there are times when there is excess rainfall, but mostly it is when the rainfall is not adequate. And when that is not adequate with a drought-like situation, it is a disaster. So which is where, if one can have a clear database and information in terms of claims that have been occurring, the pattern in which it has been occurring, probably the premium rates which would be quoted would be commensurate. Now, as far as the government is concerned, they have come to the rescue and ensured that for the farmer, the premium rates be brought down hugely. And that has been done. So the government gives subsidy, whether it is the state government or the central government. So they pay these subsidies, the farmer pays a small amount. And the rates are also fixed depending on the crop that you're sowing. The law of these financial institutions, that if they've given out a loan, they would like to keep their interest protected. So they ensure that the enrollment takes place for the loany farmers. There are a lot of farmers who are also given Kisan credit cards. So it is also almost mandatory that all these farmers who have these cards would also take insurance. That brings us to the non-loany farmers. Now in India, last year the total number of farmers who were covered were about 5 crores. A country which has a population of 135 crores. So 5 crores, and a country where more than 60% of the population is into agriculture, rural based. When you have a very large population, this is what happens. In fact, I end up talking about health insurance a lot of times, and I could tell you that in this country another huge coverage which has come in. I'm deviating a little. The Ayushman Bharat, the healthcare. So out of this huge population of 1.35 billion, the percentage of people who are covered under health are only 30%. So the idea now with this Ayushman Bharat is to try and cover, so the reach is expected to be 50 crores. So which would be almost, you're looking at 40% of the people who would come under the ambit. And then give it the rest in terms of the corporate group medical and the individual medical. Now to come back to crop, the coverage is about 35%. So the remaining 65% of the farmers are still the third year that on such a large scale this Pradhan Mantri Fasal Bima Yojana has been implemented. So also the average farm holding size is a mere 1.3 hectares. And when you compare, in fact, when Dr. Sasenko is showing us, you could see when she showed us the Bhutan picture compared to the other developed nations. So the farm holding is very small, and then there are different crops. So a variety of the farmers who will probably have 5 to 6 crops in the same year on that same plot of land. Unfortunately, are also not known to our farmers. And then the concept of insurance is also not known to them. As I mentioned earlier, insurance also, I hate to admit it, but there is an element of trust deficit in the minds of a lot of people. And while in most developed countries, people buy insurance, I would say in India we have to sell insurance. And it's not easy, let me tell you that. I've already told you the number of years I've spent out there. Insurance is kept at the last priority. Corporates, big people, they have money for everything else. But the insurance bit is, we'll think about it. With crop insurance, once the farmers get educated that this insurance is going to help them in the event of an eventuality or when they need it very dearly, this scheme will again take off. And for an insurer, somebody has to cross-subsidize. So only when there is subsidy can the insurer, hope to keep his or her head, above the water and try and give the best claims. Like again I tell you, in terms of health insurance in this country has almost 65% population which is less than the age of 35. And 50% of this country's population is less than 25 years of age. So it's a very young nation. But unfortunately, the younger people who are working and who can afford to pay medical premiums, which are not very large, let's say a 7,000 rupees annual premium, will get you a coverage on a floater basis for about 5 lakhs, 500,000 rupees, which when you compare to the other economies, it's like so small and pittance. But we have a lot of the young people who still do not buy the insurance. One, they feel they're invincible, and it's not as if they don't have the money, because when you go out and when you look at the restaurants and they're always packed. When you look at the phones that they use, so much, almost a lakh, and so 7,000 rupees doesn't come in. So when these young people don't buy health insurance, they do not cross-subsidize for the elders. And when you're old, the claims become almost inevitable. And that is what I would like to urge to all the young people. If nothing, think about the elders. Even if you think you're invincible and nothing is going to happen to you, please think about our elders. Because, once they're old, the income also comes down. And as insurers, we have no other choice but to raise the premiums there at a higher age. So, which is where the concept of cross-subsidy. So, coming back again with the crop insurance as well, hopefully with the alleviation of poverty and bringing in of literacy will probably ease the situation. There is also lack of adequate infrastructure because for enforcing and implementing a scheme of such a large magnitude, one needs a lot of people at the ground level. We have tehsils and blocks and panchayats, but unfortunately I have myself still not gone. I definitely want to go there to see how it all happens, but I understand that the people who man them are not adequate in terms of numbers. Obviously, there is high administrative cost when the infrastructure is lacking. As far as insurance companies are concerned, I mentioned about competition. So today, when an insurance company looks at taking a quantum jump in terms of the premium income, which we call the top line, two lines of business come to my mind. And number one is crop insurance these days. Because I've already mentioned to you numbers like, let's say, 1,000 crores. Now, to try and reach 1,000 crores for health insurance or even for motor insurance is going to be a tall order because each policy is a small amount. So here also, when you cover more number of farmers, the premium goes up. But because of the competition, there is, underbidding, and the system is of tendering, So the state government creates clusters, and a cluster comprises a few districts. So that is something which the government has done very well, that nobody will get a brilliant cluster, like a track record. When you look at it, you know that these districts by and large don't have too many claims. So it's always a mix of the good and the bad. Districts which are prone to drought, districts which are prone to flooding. So some of these are mixed in a cluster along with the other good ones. So whoever is bidding for a cluster has to take the good and the bad. So that, to my mind, is a very good system. Now there are times when, even after having emerged as L1 in the tendering process, you are required or you're requested to negotiate and bring down your premium rates. And that becomes a huge challenge because the actuarial department at your office is not, allowing you to do that. And more than that, when you go to the reinsurance market, the RI fellow is not going to give you support because they have their minimum guidelines and in terms of the terms and in terms of the rates. What do? So very tricky catch-22 situation, a huge challenge. And
all states do it or some states do it? Does this happen in all states or
the negotiation?
Yeah,
some. Otherwise, once the tendering is done, see, as per the CBC guidelines, once you bid, you bid. Yes, and you emerge as L1.
Yes.
That's the number, that is the premium rate which should be there. But then there are times when state governments have felt that the rates are not very attractive. So at times a rebidding takes place.
Yes.
At times a rebidding takes place. There is a provision under the CBC guidelines also that negotiation can be done with the L1. There is a provision. So that negotiation can be done. But then, as it is, the premium rates are so thin that Dr. Bhutani is joining us.
He was there to hear this.
No, he knows this. He knows this. It has happened at places. So that again is a challenge for the insurance companies. So today I could actually tell you, as an insurer, like if I cut even, I'm happy. Because as I mentioned, one, because of my company's pedigree, we would like to be there. And two, it gives me my top line. Because when you have to be in the business, when everybody else is growing, you also have to be a part of it. So, crop insurance and then group medical. These are the two lines of business which give you the top line quantum jump. And unfortunately, both bring in very large losses. So, then, When you think in terms of being a prudent underwriter, you don't know what is the amount of prudence that you are putting in for underwriting that. So financial resources, catastrophic losses, these are what one bargains for. At times also what happens is, there is a delay in the government subsidy coming in. So it starts with the state. So the state has to pay the subsidy and the center immediately pays up, But most insurers have issues where their money is pending for a year or so. So that again is not good for your the health of your company's P&L account. It ends up creating a huge solvency issue, which means that you need more capital. So, which means you go to your promoters asking for more money, and these days nobody is very happy giving you more money. So, something which is not very relevant to crop insurance, but these are the circumstances under which we work. So, what is the way forward? So, one is awareness, bringing in awareness into the minds of farmers, and probably banks, insurance companies, the government, they can all get together and maybe have more publicity by way of television, by way of pamphlets, by way of educational programs which can be conducted in the villages where the farmers are there. Use of technology. Now, we have a lot of technology. To be honest, a year and a half ago when I came in here, I was quite surprised. I knew that we had, big satellite there. But then I was not aware that even drones and, equipment like that was being deployed to look at losses, to look at the condition. But it is happening. We do it. Most of the companies do that. And the more of such sensors and mobile apps, the more of these, appliances coming in, it is obviously going to make things more scientific. It is going to be more meaningful. Now, another way forward that we would like to suggest is the declaration forms, and let it be online. Otherwise, normally what happens is the hard copy, the farmers reach the financial institution. A lot of time takes place there. So what happens is, probably you've reached the last date for the enrollment, and a lot of farmers have not been enrolled at all till then. So these are issues which, if looked into, if sorted out, would probably make things easier. So as I mentioned, being in the third year, a lot of these challenges have been overcome. When you're in the market, you realize how and what you would expect it to do so that it's a win-win for all. As insurers, I would say it is mandatory that you try and make just a little bit of money to stay afloat, because you have stakeholders and your promoters. But then, I made it very clear, and I know my other competition players also. Everybody is very clued in. People who want to do things for our farmers, our brethren, as I mentioned so much there. So I think I'm going to take a call with this. There are a lot of experienced specialists who would be taking us through the day. I hope we have very meaningful deliberations. Thank you for listening to me. Thank you, Mr. Sethi, for calling me over.
If the government was following for crop insurance this model where insurance companies are having the role, why did they decide in the case of Ayushman health insurance scheme to go in most of the states for trust model? Do you see a risk that in the coming years this crop insurance may also be shifted to trust model?
Yes, that is a possibility. In fact, some of the states have already got into, like Bihar has a crop insurance scheme which is on its own. And this morning I saw that Karnataka also is wanting to get into this model. As far as the trust model which has set in the health insurance, my feeling is why this was brought in was because the premium rate which was suggested was not acceptable to most of the insurers. And I'll tell you by example. We used to have this Rashtriya Swasthya Bima Yojana, which was again a health insurance for the rural folk, for the below poverty line people. And there used to be a tagline. I was a part of the insurance company then. For 365 rupees per annum, which meant 1 rupee per day, a coverage was given for 30,000 rupees.
Yeah, brokerage, it is on farmer share, what they collect, brokers collect for that is also very clear. So in these two there is no confusion or comparison. The publicity expenses that government has brought in the operational guidelines, revised operational guidelines, 0.5% of the gross premium. And the brokerage is of course more between insurance company and the brokers also.
Say to clarify myself, gross premium is including huge amount.
Yeah,
So now that you are also here and Mr. Sinha is
No,
also.
it is a huge amount.
How you intend to use it? Because you must have started thinking on it. Will it be in the form of a awareness program? Will it be in the form of banners? What the thinking should start? Because we have
Yes.
been listening of this 0.5% for last 3 months.
See, the numbers are going to be huge. When we're talking about
And Sinha sir, the government has also brought in the operation guidelines, if the company is not able to spend, then the balance will go to the technology fund. So there is no escape for the companies to spend money. It's better to spend rather than to raise the technology.
bring in awareness. As I said, there is lack of awareness. So if it has to be done, let the awareness be brought in. Let it be for the common good of all.
Any questions from the
Actually,
audience?
Sinha sir, you were telling about the awareness. So what type of awareness you are thinking of? Advertisements or radio and TV or other ways also?
Yes, so one would need to get to the television channels which are there in the rural areas by way of people going and educating or telling them that if you buy insurance, you would, in the event of a mishap or a need, you would get compensated. Thereafter also, what is an adequate sum insured? Because at times what happens is the sum insured is not adequate. So even when the losses, when the yield is looked at, the compensation that is given out ends up being a very small number.
Actually, there was a report, 29% of Pradhan Bima Yojana was there, and other people are not knowing it. My main aim is, when we are getting a car, the insurance, we have to pay for that. So why not like that? If farmer is going for purchasing a tractor or seeds or manure or this IFFCO and other things, people are supplying fertilizers, there should be a form and they should pay for the premium for the insurance also.
So at IFFCO Tokyo, we have a policy where IFFCO gives a complimentary personal accident cover to a farmer whenever a farmer buys a bag of fertilizer. And very dear to our promoters, so as insurers, we ensure that in the event of a claim, there is no document also which is issued. The only document is the receipt of the bag of fertilizer which has been bought. So these are things which are there in the offering, and I think the government will also suggest ways and means of reaching out in terms of how does one use that fund. So we'll take it as it comes.
There are 2 questions coming from this side.
As an insurance company, what kind of coverage, or do you cover risk by risk?
I can talk of my company. So in India, GAC is the largest insurance companies, but we have a quota share treaty. We have a quota share treaty. So which is where I was saying that if your claim numbers get aberrated, then the terms which are given to you by the reinsurers are very stringent. When you, let's say a loss is going to be the outcome, and you know for sure that with such loss corridors, the loss is going to come on your net account. So which is where we have a quota share, and then thereafter for the balance portion, but you have to keep yourself fully covered.
Now, I come from Jordan from a company called Apex Insurance and Reinsurance Brokers. Now, my small comment is when we talk about awareness. From where I come from, despite the fact that many players in the market like producers, insurance companies, reinsurers, even insurance brokers would like and would work hard on increasing the awareness in the market. However, and I'm not quite sure if this is applicable also in India, the main key factor for purchasing or selling a certain product is when it comes mandatory by government. So is the government in India working on pushing towards this, making the crop insurance or agricultural insurance becoming mandatory, even for a certain segment of farmers?
Not yet.
Not yet.
The farmer is well off, he does not borrow money, he can be non-loaning, or he is too poor with no credibility that no one is ready to give loan to him, or he goes to a money lender for borrowing money where it is the interest rate is very high. So he is called non-loaning, and the government is having the challenge to how to cover them, because Prime Minister, when he announced, he said that we will cover 50% by this year and this by this year. No, we are stuck up as a nation. That is on the concept of awareness which we talked, and with money will be available. So, Mr. Sinha, you must have seen many years back, there was a film which was Manthan, produced by Amul Cooperative, and that movie, which was a full-fledged movie, spread the message of milk cooperatives to the villages of India, and India became from a very, very milk deficit country to a milk surplus country. In fact, for many years we are #1 in the world. Then it is that there has been a movie a few years back, Bagban, which was supported by ICICI Bank, which encouraged the message of financial savings, financial inclusion, and people appreciated it. Then there has been recently a movie on, I think the name is Pad, where Akshay Kumar is the person and sanitary napkins is this thing. That is supported by Melinda Gates Foundation. And that movie has spread the message of use of sanitary napkins among the young female population in the villages of India. It is AICIL, Mr. Singhal is here, you are here. It is, you will find it worthwhile to use some of these funds, as all insurance companies engage in crop insurance, in encouraging movie which will be seen by all, which can be in different languages and which can take the message to all over the country. So please keep it in mind.
Yes, that's a good suggestion. For the third party liability, we still have 50% of our vehicles, especially two-wheelers, which have no insurance. So a new ruling has been introduced very recently, which is talking of a 3 years or a 5 years bundled third party cover for new vehicles. So the government is thinking in those terms.